And yesterday, Max, TexasFootball.com was where you could find exclusively the breaking news by some intrepid, handsome reporter.
You're not talking about me.
I'm not talking about you.
Okay. All right.
That the UIL had announced their Texas high school football state championship schedule for 2017. What's funny is that I called Matt Stepp, our DCTF high school football insider, who literally makes a living breaking news. That's what he does. He's the Woj of Texas high school football, as you like to call him, the Adam Schefter of Texas high school football. He's the guy who breaks the news.
Yep.
For me, I haven't broken news. I've done it before, but I have not broken news, like pretty major news,
Right.
in a long time.
Right.
I gotta tell you.
Particularly during magazine season.
Especially now when my head is down, my head is in the sand working on the 2017 Summer Edition Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Let me tell you, that is an intoxicating feeling to give out information that people want to know that nobody else has. That's an intoxicating feeling. I talked to Matt Stepp right after, and I was like, "Is this how you feel like all the time?"
Right.
That's like,
yeah.
Everything kind of makes sense now about Matt Stepp. That's a really intoxicating feeling.
I get it, but I don't get it. I have no desire to have that feeling myself.
I know. I'm saying, and that's the thing. I was not seeking to break it.
Right, but you were enjoying the high.
It just happened to fall in my lap, and I got to break it. I got to break it. Let's put it that way. That's the way to phrase it.
Sure.
I got to break the news.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not out there grinding like Matt Stepp is trying to find out who Bartlett hired.
No.
You know? But I will admit that, as Matt Stepp said, it's a pretty awesome feeling,
nice feeling
whenever you do.
Yeah.
So
but enough about you.
Enough about how great I am. Let's talk instead about the schedule and the news that came down yesterday that there is a pretty major shift in the way that the UIL is going to operate their Texas high school football state championship games in 2017. We knew it was going to be back at AT&T Stadium. That is not breaking news.
No.
We knew that last year they had signed a 2-year deal, I believe with a mutual option for a third. I believe that's the case. At AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So we knew where it was going to be. And we knew when it was going to be.
Right.
We knew that because of the way that the calendar falls, it was going to be December 20th through 23rd, which kind of stinks because last year, you remember, it was something, 15 through 18?
Something like that.
It was literally last year, it was the earliest it could possibly be. And this year we're paying our penance. It is the latest it can possibly be. It was finishing the day before Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So that's what we knew before yesterday. What we know now are the game times. Let me also say we also knew that the last game of the year was going to be the 6A Division II title game. Because, as the UIL does, they will flip who goes first, Division I or Division II, every year. Last year, it just so happened that it was Division II went first and then Division I, so every game got bigger.
Right.
So it was 1A Division II, then 1A Division I, 2A Division II, etc. That's what we knew. What we didn't know was the schedule and the game times, and that is where the intrigue lies. Specifically, that we are going to have an 11-man state championship game on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday the 20th. Now, last year, if you remember, on Wednesday the 20th, the 6-man state championship games went on at 4 and 7 p.m. The 6-man state championship games, Class 1A, went on then. They had their own day, 4 and 7. And then on Thursday, the UIL crammed 4 games into one day. They did 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m.
Yep.
Was the schedule. 2A, and 3A played then. In 2017, the 2A Division I state championship game will be played at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, December 20th. So we're going to have the 1A Division I state championship game at 11 a.m., the 1A Division II state championship game at 2 p.m., and then the 2A Division I 11-man state championship game at 7 p.m. Now, there's a number of factors that go. There's a number of things that go into this. First of all, it's clear to me that the UIL had to get away from the quad. They had to get away from the quadruple header. Even though last year's quadruple header
Went as smooth as possible.
I thought it was great. What time did we walk out of there?
A normal time.
Like midnight?
Yeah,
midnight,
which
a little
is
after
amazing.
midnight,
Yeah.
which is normal
Right.
for us because the last game kicking off, I believe the last game was scheduled to kick off at 8 o'clock. And you know what?
It's
I think
like
it kicked
19 or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
about, considering it was the fourth game of the day,
Right.
that is about as good as you could ask for. But it's clear that the UIL did not want to do that, especially when you look back at 2015, which was, in my view, an abject disaster.
Right.
That's when you had a game, that final game between Franklin and Wascom,
Right.
going on until
Like 1 in the morning.
1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And you simply cannot have high school football games
Right.
being played into the wee hours of the morning. That's just not that just can't happen.
Right.
So they have decided to shift one game to the Wednesday. So now you'll have 4 days of triple headers instead of going 2, 4, 3, 3.
Right.
Okay. There are some implications here that go beyond December 20th through 23rd.
Sure.
That stretch back. There is you may not, our fans may not know all the bylaws of the UIL. There is a rule called, it's colloquially called the 5-day rule. What the 5-day rule states is that you cannot play you cannot play 2 games in 5 days.
There we go.
That's weird. You cannot play 2 games in 5 days. So, if you play on for example, if you play on a Saturday, you cannot play a Wednesday game.
Right.
I got called, by the way, I did correct something on the original story. I got called by the UIL to clarify the way that they count the 5 days. What this means is that the state semifinals will definitely not, for 2A Division I, will definitely not be on that Saturday prior.
Right.
They cannot be, because then you would be playing 2 games in 5 days, and that would violate the rule. Now, for 6-man, it doesn't matter, because 6-man has had a bye week. They basically had a Super Bowl week.
Right.
Where they play 2 weeks before because there's one fewer round in the 6-man playoffs.
Right.
It didn't matter for them. This does matter for these things. Also, so technically, the 2A Division I championship. So let's just say it happens to be a rematch. Okay, right. Hypothetically, let's just say that it's again Crawford versus Refugio in the state championship game.
Yeah.
Technically, Crawford and Refugio could play on Friday. Friday the what is that? The 15th?
Sure.
Sounds like it. Friday the 15th. And then they could and from then they could play again on the 20th. But you're going to be playing on real short rest.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the 2A Division I playoff schedule, now that they have this bit of information, that you're going to have a lot of games played on Thursday. Because you're going to want to get on schedule. You're going to want to play Thursday to Thursday to Thursday to Thursday to Thursday to Wednesday.
Right.
That is the way I believe it's going to go. So, there's that. One other more minor note, but I think important note, is that the schedule did get shifted. Every game got shifted. So, for example, last year, the Saturday of state championship games, it went noon, 4, and 8.
Yeah.
Okay? You had 5A Division I at noon. You had 6A Division II at 4. You had 6A Division I at 8. Okay? Pretty standard. That's been their standard operating procedure ever since they've gone to Central Site State Championship games. This year, they're shifting things up an hour.
1 hour.
11, 3, and 7.
Yep.
Look, I don't love the idea of a morning kickoff, an 11 a.m. kickoff, but it is abundantly clear to me that the UIL has caught hell for at least 2 years, maybe more,
right,
about games stretching into past midnight.
And probably some hell for games that kick off at 10.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, like, better to have 3 games at 11 than 1 at 10.
Right.
I think.
I think you're right. But that does mean
Or
there's
games at
going
11,
to be a shift in the schedule. 11, 3, and 7. Overall, what do I think? I think that this needed to be done. I think that this was the only... I think this is a much more sustainable thing. It is not ideal for everybody, but at the same time, you're never going to be able to make everyone happy. I think this is the most agreeable to the most amount of people.
Right. Considering
I think this is a very pragmatic
going to be
move.
a central site regardless.
I think this is a very pragmatic move. And so ultimately, you can find the story at texasfootball.com. The 2017 Texas High School Football State Championship schedule is out. I guess, mark your calendars.
They're set. One thing that I thought was interesting because, inevitably when news like this comes out, we do get a lot of feedback, especially on our Facebook page, from people saying that UIL doesn't care about their schedules or their work, and I totally get that argument. I do. It's a valid one. Matt Stepp asked on Twitter, basically, hey, 2A coaches, what do you think? If I told you, would you rather play with all the teams on Wednesday night, or Thursday morning, or I put you at a different site and, at a time that you would prefer on Thursday or Friday? Almost 90% of the responses were, we just want to be in that game. We'll play it in a parking lot. We don't care where it is, And I get that mentality too. It's both sides of the same coin.
So, and that gets into a bigger argument about whether or not the central site is a wise move for the UIL.
Right. But that ship sailed.
Large. That ship has sailed.
It's
First of
over.
all, that's not going to change.
Right.
Second of all, my argument has always been people say, well, why don't they just play like the small school games at so-and-so stadium and the big school games here? Or why don't they
Why don't they do it at the Star and then have the rest of the games at AT&T the same weekend?
The UIL is not perfect. I do believe that the UIL strives very, very, very hard to make sure that every team is treated equally. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
Overall, do they do it right all the time? Absolutely not. And I have had my issues with the UIL over the years. But I do believe that they want to treat that their number one priority is they want to treat every game equally.
Yeah.
And if you have it at different sites,
Yeah.
inevitably there will be a disparity and there will be games that are quote unquote less than.
Right. I think, but the experience at one place, at AT&T, NRG, wherever it ends up being, San Antonio someday,
the Alamo Dome,
hopefully. The Alamo Dome. You can't replace that experience for these kids of the bus driving in under the stadium and being in the tunnels and being a 6-man or a 2A school and having the same exact experience as the 6A kids. I think that's really special. And, I think that can kind of get lost in we like the neutral site more, and this is ridiculous, and Wednesday, how am I supposed to get off work on a Wednesday? I get all of that. But at the end of the day, if it's about 17-year-old kids and the best experience for them, not necessarily the best scheduling for them, not necessarily the best scheduling for them, if those kids have earned the right to be in that spot,
to have this
drive
special
into
experience,
that tunnel and walk out onto that field like everyone else, I think that's a good thing. I totally understand the arguments against it. I agree with a lot of them. But, man, it's tough to replace. You and I sit there. We're there before everyone else. We're down on the field. We watch these kids the first time they walk in and take it in. It's awesome, especially when they're from the smaller towns. So I'm kind of loath to let go of that. I
am
get it.
too. I think the UIL struck gold with the Central Site State Championship games, and I just don't think it's going anywhere, and I don't think it should. It's my opinion.